My husband walked out on me when I was 7 months pregnant, saying I'd never amount to anything without him. 3 months later, I became his boss. He showed up to work that Monday morning with no idea that the new owner everyone was whispering about was me, his abandoned wife. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or left behind by someone who thought you weren't enough, stay with me. This story is for you. Hit that subscribe button, because by the end of this, you'll understand why the best revenge is success they never saw coming. Now, my name is Nia Thompson, and 5 years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was 29, working as a senior financial analyst at one of the biggest investment banks in the city, and I had just married the man I thought was my forever. Brandon was charming in that dangerous way that makes you ignore the red flags. You know the type. Smooth talker, always dressed sharp, had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. We met at a corporate networking event, and honestly, I was flattered that someone like him even noticed someone like me. I need you to understand where I came from to appreciate where this story goes. I was the first person in my family to graduate college. My mama cleaned houses to help pay for my books. My grandmother prayed over me every single night, asking God to give me opportunities she never had. I worked full-time through school, studied until my eyes burned, and clawed my way into a career that most people told me wasn't for girls who looked like me. So when Brandon showed interest, when he pursued me, when he proposed after 18 months, I thought I had finally made it. I had the career, the husband, the life I'd worked so hard for. But here's what I didn't see coming. Brandon's family owned a commercial real estate firm called Thompson and Associates. It had been in his family for 2 generations, and honestly, it was struggling. His father ran it, and Brandon worked there too, but he always acted like the job was beneath him. He'd come home complaining about how outdated everything was, how his father didn't understand modern business, how he was basically wasting his potential. Meanwhile, I was excelling at my job, getting promotions, managing portfolios worth millions. But somehow, in our house, my success was always small. He'd make these little comments, like when I'd explain a deal I closed, he'd smile and say, "It's cute that you think you understand real business." Or when I'd offer advice about his family company, he'd pat my hand and say, "Stick to your spreadsheets, babe." His mother was even worse. She treated me like I should be grateful to have married into their family, like I was lucky they'd chosen me. Never mind that I was out-earning her son. Never mind that I was keeping our household running while he complained about his job. None of that mattered to them. I was just the girl from the wrong side of town who got lucky. Then I got pregnant. I remember the moment I took that test, seeing those 2 lines and feeling this pure, overwhelming joy. I couldn't wait to tell Brandon. I had this whole thing planned, I was going to surprise him with baby shoes and a cute announcement. But when I told him, the look on his face made my stomach drop. He just stared at me and said, "Now? Really?" Like I'd told him I crashed his car or something. He complained about the timing, said we weren't ready, worried about money even though we were both making good salaries. That's when I started noticing him pulling away. Coming home later, being distant, checking his phone constantly. I was 4 months pregnant when the warning signs became impossible to ignore. But you know what's funny? Even when you see it coming, it still breaks you when it actually happens. I was 7 months along when I found the messages. Her name was Vanessa. She owned some boutique downtown. No kids, no complications, no stretch marks or swollen ankles. Everything I wasn't in that moment. I confronted him calmly, because honestly, by then I'd already started preparing myself emotionally. I think deep down, I knew. His response is burned into my memory forever. He looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You let yourself go. You're boring now." Like growing his child made me worthless, like the woman who was building a life for our family wasn't enough because she didn't fit into her pre-pregnancy genes. He packed his things that same night. I was standing in our bedroom, 7 months pregnant, watching this man I'd built a life with stuff his clothes into a suitcase. And you know what he said to me? He said, "You'll struggle without me. You're just a numbers person." You don't know how the real world works. Good luck raising that baby on your salary. You'll see what you lost." Then he walked out, just like that. His mother called me the next day, and instead of asking if I was okay, if her grandchild was okay, she blamed me, said I drove him away, said I should have been a better wife. I cried that night. I cried for the marriage I'd lost, for the family I'd imagined, for my daughter who would grow up without her father because he chose to leave. But something else was happening too. Underneath the hurt, there was this growing sense of relief, like I'd been carrying something heavy for years, and finally put it down. I was alone, pregnant, and scared, but I was also free. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. It was Mr. Harrison, a senior partner at Sterling Capital Group, one of the most prestigious investment firms in the country. They'd been watching my work for years, tracking my deals, my analysis, my success rate. He offered me a position as managing director of acquisitions. The salary was almost triple what I was making, but there was something else. They were planning a major acquisition and needed my expertise to evaluate and oversee it. The target company was struggling, drowning in debt, desperately looking for a buyer. When he told me the name, I almost dropped the phone. Thompson and Associates, Brandon's family business, the company his father had built, the company where Brandon still worked. They had no idea about my connection. Why would they? I'd kept my maiden name at work. The business world knew me as Nia Roberts, not Nia Thompson. I sat there on that phone call, 8 months pregnant, and had to make a choice. I could tell them about the conflict and walk away, take another position somewhere else, keep my personal life and professional life completely separate, or I could take the job. I could step into the opportunity I'd earned, the opportunity I deserved, and let the chips fall where they may. I accepted the position. I didn't tell Sterling about Brandon. It wasn't relevant to my ability to do the job, and honestly, I'd earned this on my own merit. 3 weeks later, I gave birth to my daughter, Amara. She was 7 pounds, 3 ounces of pure perfection, and the moment they placed her in my arms, something shifted in me. Every doubt, every fear, every moment of weakness just evaporated. I looked at her tiny face and promised her that I would show her what strength looks like, that no man would ever make her feel small, that she would grow up knowing her mother was unstoppable. I took 4 weeks of maternity leave, and during those 4 weeks, I worked. I know. Everyone says you should rest and bond with your baby, and I did that too. But I also reviewed every single document about Thompson and Associates. I analyzed their financials, their properties, their deals, their debts. The company was a mess. Bad investments, poor management, outdated business practices, bleeding money every quarter. Brandon's father had passed away about 6 months before, and his mother was overwhelmed trying to run things. They were desperate for a buyer, someone to come in and save the legacy. Sterling Capital made the offer. They accepted immediately. The transaction closed while I was still on leave. When I came back to work, I wasn't just managing director of acquisitions. I was the official representative overseeing Thompson and Associates. In simple terms, I was the new owner. Well, representing the ownership group, but functionally, I was in charge. Every decision went through me. Every employee reported to me, ultimately, including Brandon. My first day back, I arranged to visit the Thompson and Associates office. I wore my best navy suit, the one that made me feel powerful. I brought Amara with me in her carrier because my nanny was waiting in the car, but also because I wanted them to see. I wanted them to see the baby they'd dismissed, the child her father had walked away from, being raised by a woman who didn't need anyone's permission to be successful. The staff gathered in the main conference room. They knew the company had been sold. They knew new management was coming. What they didn't know was who. I walked in holding my daughter, and the room went completely silent. But the look on Brandon's face, that's what I'll remember forever. Shock first, like he was seeing a ghost, then confusion, his brain trying to make sense of what his eyes were seeing, then pure horror as reality set in. "What are you doing here?" he stammered. His voice cracked. I smiled, professional and calm, and said, "I'm the new owner. Well, representing the ownership group. Surprise. You could have heard a pin drop. His mother, who still worked there in some advisory capacity, turned absolutely pale. The other employees looked between us, clearly picking up on the tension but not understanding the full story yet. Brandon tried to recover, tried to maintain some dignity. "This is a conflict of interest," he said, but his voice had no strength behind it. I looked him directly in the eye and said, "We're separated. This is business. Unless you'd like to resign?" He opened his mouth, closed it, then stormed out of the conference room. I continued with the meeting, introduced myself professionally to the staff, outlined my vision for the company's future. 20 minutes later, Brandon came back, sat in the back of the room, didn't say a word. Because here's the thing, he needed that job. He couldn't afford to quit, and now he reported to me. The irony was delicious. The woman he'd told would struggle without him was now his boss. The woman he'd said didn't understand the real world was now restructuring his entire company. His mother had to sit there and watch her abandoned, pregnant daughter-in-law become the person who controlled her family's legacy. Over the next 6 months, I completely transformed that company. I fired the dead weight, and yes, I thought about firing Brandon. It would have been so easy, but I didn't. I wanted him there. I wanted him to watch. I wanted him to see exactly what he'd walked away from, up close, every single day. I brought in new clients, modernized their systems, renegotiated their debts, sold off failing properties, and invested in promising ones. Within 8 months, Thompson & Associates was profitable for the first time in 3 years. And every day Brandon got smaller. His ego couldn't handle it. The other employees respected me, listened to me, came to me with ideas. Meanwhile, his girlfriend Vanessa left him. Turns out when she realized he wasn't actually the successful businessman he'd pretended to be, when she saw that he was just an employee at a company his ex-wife now owned, suddenly he wasn't so attractive anymore. Watching him crumble should have felt better than it did. Honestly, after a few months, I just felt nothing. He became irrelevant. He'd show up, do his work quietly, and leave. His mother eventually apologized to me, which was too little and way too late, but at least she acknowledged how wrong she'd been. Brandon eventually resigned about a year in. Couldn't take the humiliation anymore. He tried to demand alimony in our divorce, which was laughable. I got full custody of Amara. He got supervised visitation that he barely used. 2 years after taking over Thompson & Associates, I sold my stake in the company for a substantial profit. I used that money to start my own investment fund, one focused specifically on supporting women entrepreneurs. Women like my mother, like my grandmother, like the version of me that worked 3 jobs to get through college. I wanted to be for them what no one had been for me, someone who believed in their potential, who gave them a real chance, who saw their worth. Brandon occasionally sends child support now because the court makes him. We don't speak unless it's about Amara, and even then, it's through lawyers or text messages. His role in my life is so small now that sometimes I forget he exists at all. Meanwhile, I'm engaged to Christopher, an elementary school teacher who loves my daughter like she's his own, who thinks my ambition is beautiful, who celebrates my success instead of feeling threatened by it. Amara is 4 years old now, smart and funny and bold. She's growing up watching her mother build empires, and that matters more to me than any revenge ever could. Here's what I need you to understand. Brandon thought leaving me would break me. He thought taking away his presence, his name, his support would make me crumble. Instead, it freed me. It freed me to become exactly who I was meant to be, without someone constantly telling me I was too much or not enough. That baby he said would hold me back? She motivates me every single day. She's the reason I wake up at 5 in the morning. She's the reason I negotiate harder, think smarter, refuse to settle. Everything I do, so she grows up knowing that women don't need permission to be powerful. If you're going through something similar right now, if someone just walked away from you, told you that you weren't enough, left you when you needed them most, I need you to hear this. Their leaving is not your ending. It's your beginning. You are stronger than you know, more capable than they ever gave you credit for, and your comeback will be beautiful. It might not look like mine. You might not become your ex's boss, but you will rise. You will rebuild. You will discover parts of yourself that only emerge when you stop trying to make yourself smaller for someone else's comfort. Subscribe to this channel if this story touched you. Drop a comment telling me about a time someone underestimated you. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Remember, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming so successful, so happy, so completely whole that they become irrelevant to your story. I'm proof. You will be too. B.